Look down at your legs right now. If you have been sitting while browsing or strapped to a desk for the last 2 hours, a silent mechanical failure is actively occurring beneath your skin. Gravity is currently dragging roughly 70% of your total blood volume down into your lower extremities. Against this relentless downward force, the delicate one-way venous valves inside your leg veins are struggling. They are fighting a losing battle. Deoxygenated blood, heavy with carbon dioxide and metabolic waste, is beginning to pool in the deep veins of your calves. It is stagnating because the primary biological engine designed to pump it back up to your right atrium has been completely deactivated by your posture. You might casually refer to them as your calf muscles, specifically the soleus and gastrocnemius. But in clinical hemodynamics, we do not view them merely as tissue. We define them as your second heart. And right now, your second heart is flatlining. I observe the consequences of this mechanical attrition daily. Patients walk into the clinic complaining of a dull, persistent ache, a profound heaviness that predictably sets in by late afternoon. Their ankles swell, leaving deep red sock marks indented into the edematous tissue. They routinely dismiss these symptoms as the unavoidable cost of simply getting older. It is not aging, it is mechanical stasis. When you remain seated in a chair for prolonged periods, the velocity of your venous blood flow drops to near zero. As the blood stalls, its viscosity fundamentally changes. It thickens. This localized stagnation physically suffocates the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels, triggering severe endothelial dysfunction. Because the pressure builds up with nowhere to go, plasma begins to seep through the compromised vascular walls and leaks directly into the surrounding interstitial tissues. That is the clinical definition of peripheral edema. That deep, throbbing tightness you feel is the physical manifestation of your cells drowning in their own fluid. If left uninterrupted, this stagnant pooling creates the perfect biological environment for platelets to aggregate, setting the stage for deep vein thrombosis, a blood clot that can break loose with fatal consequences. But the human circulatory system operates on direct mechanical feedback loops. You do not need to run a marathon to reverse this stasis. You do not even need to stand up from where you are sitting right now. You simply need to re-engage the biological pumps through precise, targeted biomechanical movements. We are going to dissect 5 highly specific micro-movements you can execute immediately from that exact chair to forcefully restart your peripheral circulation, clear out the pooled toxins, and protect your vascular endothelium. We begin by manually overriding the stalled circulation. We start with the primary engine, the soleus pump. This is executed through seated heel raises. When you plant the balls of your feet firmly on the floor and elevate your heels as high as your range of motion allows, you are doing much more than flexing a dormant muscle. You are physically compressing the large venous sinuses located deep within the belly of the calf. This forceful, deliberate contraction acts exactly like a rigid sponge being violently squeezed. It creates a massive spike in localized pressure, forcing the trapped, deoxygenated blood upward, violently pushing open those weakened one-way valves. I want you to hold that peak contraction at the top for 3 full seconds. Feel the intense physical tightness in the back of your lower leg. That tension is the exact pressure gradient required to shoot blood back up past your knees and toward your chest. Release the heels slowly. Do not just drop them. The slow, controlled eccentric release is what creates a negative pressure vacuum within the veins, actively pulling fresh, oxygen-rich blood down from the femoral artery to replace what was just expelled. Execute 15 slow repetitions. The deep warmth you feel building in the tissue is not just muscular exertion. It is the physical sensation of localized hemodynamics being restored. However, the soleus engine cannot function optimally if the drainage pathways below it are blocked. The ankle joint itself acts as the crucial gateway for deep lymphatic drainage. This brings us to the second biomechanical trigger, ankle circles. As you sit motionless hour after hour, the synovial fluid enclosed within the ankle capsule thickens. It transforms from a highly lubricating gel into a viscous, glue-like substance. Concurrently, the tiny lymphatic capillaries surrounding the joint, which rely entirely on your physical joint articulation to pump out cellular waste, become pinched and utterly completely blocked. To break this logjam, extend one leg slightly forward, lifting the foot an inch off the floor. Now slowly draw the largest possible circumference circles in the air with your big toe. By aggressively articulating the joint through its maximum range of motion, you are physically churning that stagnant synovial fluid. You are generating internal friction and heat, rapidly reducing its viscosity. Simultaneously, the stretching and contracting tissues are massaging those blocked lymphatic vessels, forcing the valves to open and close. 10 excruciatingly slow rotations clockwise, followed by 10 counterclockwise. You are literally sweeping microscopic metabolic debris out of the distal tissues of your foot, clearing the pathway for the arterial blood that the heel raises just summoned. We now move from fluid mechanics to neurobiology. The third critical failure point when you sit is not vascular, it is deeply neurological. I see it constantly when a patient hesitates for a fraction of a second before standing up from a waiting room chair. They shift their weight, they look down. That hesitation is not muscular weakness. It is a terrifying degradation of the electrical signal between your central nervous system and the motor neurons located in your lower extremities. When your legs are immobilized for hours, the brain simply stops sending high-frequency action potentials down the spinal cord. The myelin sheaths insulating your nerves begin to lose their conductive efficiency. The neural pathways go dark. It is the biological equivalent of a frayed wire. To forcibly reconnect this circuitry, we utilize seated marches. But this is not a cardiovascular exercise. It is a precision neural activation protocol. Sit upright, shifting your weight slightly forward. Ensure your chest cavity is open to maintain optimal vagal tone. Now lift one knee just a few inches toward your chest. Lower it with absolute militant control, then the other. Do not rush. Rushing relies on momentum and completely bypasses the motor cortex. By lifting the right knee while simultaneously allowing the left arm to swing forward naturally, a contralateral movement pattern, you are forcing the right and left hemispheres of your brain to cross-communicate. You are actively forcing electrical impulses across synapses that have been dormant all day. You are literally rebuilding the neural bridges that physical inactivity has burned down. Continue this slow, deliberate marching for 30 seconds. You will notice your heart rate elevate slightly, but more importantly, you will feel a sharp, clean sensation of physical control returning to your hips and thighs. That is the feeling of your central nervous system successfully rebooting its connection to your lower half. Next, we address the primary structural safeguard of your independence, the patellofemoral joint, your knee. It absorbs the kinetic shock of your entire body weight with every single step you take. Yet its stability relies entirely on the mechanical tension provided by the quadriceps tendon. When you are seated, the massive quadriceps muscle rests in an elongated, dormant, and vulnerable state. It atrophies rapidly. As it weakens, the kneecap loses its tracking groove. The protective cartilage underneath begins to grind against the femur. This mechanical misalignment is exactly why you feel a sudden, terrifying buckling sensation when stepping off a curb or descending a single stair. Your knee is not failing because of age. It is failing because its muscular armor has dissolved. To reconstruct this shield without dangerously loading the joint, we deploy the seated leg extension. Plant your feet flat on the floor. Slowly extend one leg outward, lifting the foot until the knee is locked as straight as comfortably possible. Do not kick. Do not use momentum. Isolate the massive muscle group on the anterior aspect of your thigh. Contract it aggressively. You must feel the muscle fibers tightening like thick steel cables wrapping around the knee joint. Hold this terminal extension for 2 full seconds. This isometric contraction achieves 2 vital physiological objectives. First, it physically pulls the kneecap directly up into its optimal anatomical alignment, instantly relieving the crushing pressure on the underlying cartilage. Second, the massive muscular demand for ATP, adenosine triphosphate, forces the femoral artery to dilate significantly, surging freshly oxygenated blood down into the tibial artery, effectively feeding the starved, hypoxic tissues of the lower leg. Execute 8 to 10 agonizingly slow repetitions per side. The deep burning sensation you feel is the accumulation of lactic acid. Do not fear it. It is the biochemical proof of cellular regeneration and muscle fiber recruitment. Finally, we must secure your lateral perimeter. Your forward motion might be controlled by your quads and hamstrings, but your survival, your immediate ability to catch your balance when you slip on a wet floor or trip over a rug, is dictated by a small, often entirely ignored fan-shaped muscle on the outside of your pelvis, the gluteus medius. When you sit in a chair, this specific muscle is stretched and crushed under your entire upper body weight for hours on end. It undergoes a severe neurological process called reciprocal inhibition. Simply put, it forgets how to fire. And when the gluteus medius fails, your pelvis drops laterally, your femur internally rotates, and your risk of a catastrophic lateral fall skyrockets. In osteoporotic individuals, this exact biomechanical failure is what snaps the femoral neck and shatters the hip. The seated hip abduction reverses this dangerous neural amnesia. Keep your feet flat, knees bent at 90 degrees. Without tilting your torso or leaning away, slowly push one knee outward, moving it laterally away from the midline of your body. You will almost immediately feel a deep, intense cramping sensation in the outer hip. That is your gluteus medius violently waking up from a neurological coma. Hold that extreme outward position for 2 seconds. By forcibly engaging this lateral stabilizer, you are not only rebuilding the muscle, but you are also simultaneously opening the pelvic floor and relieving profound mechanical compression on the major vascular and lymphatic bundles routing through the groin. Execute 8 repetitions per leg. Understand this: you are not just building muscle tissue. You are actively constructing a biological shock absorber. You are building the exact reflex mechanism that will keep you out of the orthopedic trauma ward when the unexpected happens. We have reached the critical juncture, the payoff. The brutal reality of human physiology is governed by the law of elimination. Your body is highly efficient, but it is also exceptionally ruthless. It will aggressively dismantle any tissue, calcify any capillary bed, and sever any neural pathway that you do not actively, consistently use. It views dormant tissue as a metabolic liability. The dull ache in your calves, the swelling in your ankles by 5 p.m., that terrifying micro-tremor in your knee as you walk down the stairs. These are not the gentle whispers of old age. They are the blaring, desperate alarms of a circulatory and nervous system begging for mechanical intervention before irreversible apoptosis. Programmed cell death takes hold. Look closely at the chair you are sitting in right now. In clinical terms, prolonged sitting is not resting. It is the application of a slow-motion tourniquet. It is systematically strangling the arterial blood supply to your lower half while trapping toxic venous blood in your extremities. But you possess the absolute, unquestionable power to change that fatal dynamic right at this exact moment. You do not need a prescription pad. You do not need an expensive physical therapist. You do not need a gym membership. You have the exact biomechanical tools permanently attached to your skeleton, required to force those venous valves open, to sweep out the stagnant, highly inflammatory lymph fluid, and to reconnect the severed neural wires. The choice is intensely binary. You either passively allow gravity and stasis to dictate the next 5 years of your mobility, quietly accepting the wheelchair or the walker as your inevitable future, or you seize control of your own hemodynamics today. You perform the heel raises, you extend the leg, you squeeze the muscle, you forcefully protect your vascular endothelium from suffocation. If you have executed this precise clinical sequence alongside me today, your lower extremities should feel remarkably different right now. They should feel lighter, visibly warmer, electrically alive. I need you to go down to the comments section right now and type the words "circulation restored." I need to know exactly who is actively taking control of their physiology and who is fighting back against the decay. Do not let your physical body shut down while your mind is still actively living inside it. Protect your foundation. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell, because in our next session, we are diving deep into the exact evidence-based dietary protocols that chemically dissolve the microscopic arterial plaques your stagnant blood has left behind. Until then, stand up, move your legs, and stay relentless in the pursuit of your own survival.